All right, so the only point of this tutorial is for me to encourage you guys to start using compositing when you do renders. Now, I know a bunch of guys that don't do compositing when they render, so whatever they're rendering in the viewport, that is the final image that they end up using, and they try to achieve everything they can in the viewport, and I mean, it's a good thing, but compositing is where you will able to punch some beautiful numbers and color values just to make it just different. So here is a pretty fun example. You can clearly see the difference between the first image and the second image. The second is just way more beautiful and just awesome than the first one, in my opinion. And that's all done in compositing in Blender's compositor. So this is the whole idea of this tutorial. So I'm going to quickly run down and just give you guys an idea of how this whole thing works out. And if you guys want to follow along this tutorial, I have provided the EXR file. Just go ahead, download it, and Blender, just install it. That's all you need. So hopefully by the end of this tutorial, you guys will have a fair share of idea uh, on basically how powerful compositing is and how it's going to help you to make your renders look more awesome. So what I'm going to do is actually just shift this in right over here on my second monitor, and I already have a blend file open. I'm using Blender version 3.3 and I'm talking way too fast, but that doesn't make any difference because we're going to go to compositing tab, and yeah, so look at that. So mine's probably going to be a bit different than yours, but hey, it doesn't really matter because the nodes are going to be the same. All right, so render layers, we don't need it because we're not using information from our render scene, right? So 3D scene. And then if you have downloaded the EXR, it's just as simple as dragging it over here. And clearly you'll notice that this does not look right. I mean, it just looks bad. I mean, it's an effect by itself, but that's not how I wanted it to be. And I'll get to why that's happening. But anyway, first of all, EXR, if you want to have access to the passes, select view layer. And now we have all these passes. Now, why is this happening? Well, I ended up using two lights in the scene. One is the sunlight, sorry, the sky texture, and the other is a spotlight. Now the sky texture is, it's way too bright, right? So to compensate for its brightness, I ended up decreasing the exposure, and that's what I did. So I think the exact values were minus 3.778. Whoa, just, yeah, there we go. So yep, this is exactly how the image should look, or how it looked when I ended up rendering it. Of course, I could have dialed the values of the sky texture down, but changing the exposure is pretty common, and I just found it out recently. But yes, playing with the exposure of the camera, unfortunately, like others renderers, Blender doesn't allow us to change the exposure of the camera. But so yeah, this is what we have to do. So anyway, how would we make this render look awesome? Well, first of all, let's talk about why it is not awesome. And me personally, when I ended up rendering it out, well, the trees, it looks a bit dull. The whole scene looks a bit dull. Excuse me. I mean, sure, this red chair, sorry, sofa, Jesus fuck, this sofa is getting the attention, but the trees and all of this, this is really not gonna cut it. So what we need to do is, let's make a checklist. The tree, make it a bit saturated, make it a bit pop. This, make it a bit pop, and this volumetric that's going in, this looks super dull. So try to make it a bit, pop. Yeah, if you have heard the word, if anyone ever says you make it pop, yeah, punch them. Anyway, so let's do these things all at yeah, so let's do things. So what I like to do is when I have situations like this where I have to, like, uh, just modify different objects in the scene. So rather than just using a single color balance node and messing with the values, what I like to do is drag in a cryptomat node, and we have cryptomats over here. So cryptomat node, let's go to pick vscene. I think that's because we're looking for data from the scene. Nope, we have no information from the scene. So let's just select image and select the alone. So I ended up naming this scene, by the way, alone. It's kind of a weird name, isn't it? But yeah, and now we have this thing. It's transparent. It's yeah, don't worry, it is working. So let's go to the, well, cryptomat. What do you want to select? Material, object, or asset? Well, it's an object. We want to select the tree. So let's just select the tree, and in the image section we have our tree. So a bunch of ways to work with, but what I ended up doing was, since I only wanted to modify the tree, and I have a bunch of, well, you know what, just enough talk. What I'm going to do now is actually merge this back on top of the original image, and I'm going to take the image output. So this one, I'm going to merge this back with the original one. It's black because this mix node is not really like validating or accepting the transparency. It's like, I don't give a shit. Well, we have to make it give a shit. So we click on this icon, which basically makes it give a shit or something. But yeah, and you could have used an alpha one node as well. That would do it automatically. But anyway, here we are. But now, what I can do is to make it pop. What I can do is two things or many of things. But the node that I like to work with a lot is an exposure node. So this will basically brighten it. So if I set this to 1, take a look at that. If I set this to 2, boom, and now this is more prominent in the scene, right? But it's still it's a bit dull. So what we need to do is add a hue saturation node or hue saturation value node and change the saturation. So if I set this to something like 1.2, okay, look at that, it's getting there. Maybe 1.5. Boom, look at that. Now that's classy, that's looking really good. And this is one of the reasons why I ended up using the image output, right? Because hue saturation value node has a factor, so we can use the matte, but the exposure node doesn't have a factor. So that's why we need to like modify this node individually. So this image, so what basically the tree individually, and then slap it back on. So yeah, that's that. And let's just hit Control J F2 tree. Yeah, that's a tree. So now what we need to do is, well, here's one thing that I don't like about this scene, right? And that is, well, if you take a look, this whole thing, it looks like an evening kind of look. I mean, if you take a look at the sky, I mean, I originally wanted this to be an evening look, but this bright light that is coming inside, it is just giving the wrong idea for me. And maybe for you it's looking good, but I know that I wanted this to be an evening look, a night look. Sorry, a night look. Yeah, I wanted it to be a night look. This is not a night look at all. I wanted some blue lights coming over here, and I forgot to do that. But here's the thing, with the beauty of passes and compositing, we have these two passes, which are all the lights that are involved. So basically, like I said, we have a sky texture, which is this, and a spotlight, which is this. Fuck. So how do we combine them? Well, let's add a mix node, and it's as simple as adding them together. And look at that. So this is the same as this, but it's not. Why is that? Well, because I'm an idiot. It's true, but that's not the case. The reason why this is happening is because this blending mode is set to mix. We don't want that. We want it to be add. Now look at that. Now this equals this. So am I an idiot? Yes. But is this working? Yes. But how is this going to help us? Well, now what I can do is I can manipulate my spotlight individually. So I can add a color balance node over here, connect my spot right over here, and let's just view it. And now I want it to be a bit blue, right? So I'm just going to take it up something like this. Look at that. And now I'm going to plug this right over here. And if I view this, there you go. Now this fits in the scene just fine. Now, of course, you can play around with these values if you want, and I would recommend you to do it because values are your best friend. Just kidding. They're not, because they're not alive. So it's as simple as that. But yeah, so that's the thing. So yes, you guessed it right. What we need to do is just basically pull all of this together and replace it with this output. But you'll notice we'll have a problem. So let's talk about the problem. So I'm going to switch this over here, and I'm going to switch this over here. And now if I view this, you'll notice that our tree has lost its brightness. Excuse me, I think I'm dying. But yeah, the tree has lost its brightness. Why is that? Well, if I mute this color balance node for the spotlight, it has its brightness. But if I unmute it, sorry, if I bring it back, it loses it. Well, what the fuck? Except here's what we can do. So this is where we have to make a creative decision and move beyond the boundaries of what's real and what's not, right? So I liked this greenish tint that it was having, right? This oranges and thing as it was having, right? So I liked it. So what I can do is instead of using, so I'm just going to bring it back, this node. So instead of using this new combined light to bring out the tree, so basically modify this tree, what I can do is just select the combined one. And look at that. So we are highlighting our tree, the blue light is coming, and it is looking good. And that's what it is. So there we go. Beauty of compositing. So I'm just gonna bring this back just like that, and that's it for the tree. So tree grading, it's done, and I'm gonna drink a sip of water. Yeah, you guys should too. I don't know why. All right, so that's there. So now it's time to focus on the chair. Now that it is looking a bit dull compared to this, because now all the attention is coming towards here. We don't want that until we do, but now we don't. So let's drag a cryptomat node again, and this time we're going to isolate our sofa. So image, this uh, object, and let's just pick our sofa. And again, we want to mess with the exposure and the hue saturation. So what I'm going to do is add a mix node. Whoop, not map range, although it is a pretty cool node. If you've seen my geometry nodes tutorial, you know I use map range a lot. And so yeah, this is it. There we go, problem solved. So let's first start by adding in an exposure node. Let's set this to 2, and let's regrade that, and let's just set this back to 1. That is looking just fine, but it needs to bit, we need some of the color to bleed out, because we're vampires. No, we're not. So how do we make it bleed out? Use saturation node. This one, you have to be very gentle with it in a non-sexual way. If I change this to 1.1, look at that, it just looks bad. I mean, the shadows and all that, right? So we have to be very specific. So like 0.02 or like 0.03. I would recommend to go like mess around with these values until you get what you want. Me, I'm happy with what I want, right? So I'm happy with what I'm getting over here. So that's that. So I'm gonna set this, select all of this, Control J, F2, sofa. And look at that. So in just 2 steps, which is modifying the tree and the sofa, we have gotten such, well, the image is looking 10 times better than what it was originally, right? And that's compositing. So let's make it look a bit better. And what I mean by that is the volumetrics, they look a bit dull, and it's not, I mean, where's the bloom effect, right? I mean, I want the bloom effect over here. And how do we get that? Well, we have a beautiful little node called glare, and when you look at it, it is not lit at all. So, well, glare has a few parameters to mess around with. Well, there's this streaks, right? Then there's ghost, which does this. Thanks, but I'm gonna go with fog glow, which is what we're after. So it just like bloom that you'll see in Eevee. And then there's simple star, which is just princessy. I don't know, I'm not into princesses, so yeah, I'm gonna go with fog glow. And medium, well, if you just hover over it, you can just read it, and this is as much as you know and understand this sentence, that's as much as I know and understand this sentence. So basically what we have to do is just set this to high, right? Because this, basically this is way too much, right? Medium means this, it's gonna spread out the bloom. High means it's not gonna do that, right? Yeah, that's how much I understand about this node. But we have a few parameters, which is the mix and the threshold. So basically 0 means this node is going to mix this effect on top of the original image, and it's going to be 50-50. -1 means that it's not going to mix anything, right? Basically it's showing you the middle finger. And 1 is, you're showing it to the middle finger, right? You're showing this image the middle finger, but it's like it's not working out. So yeah. So let's just set this to something 0.2 is what I ended up doing. And this threshold, well, this is where the magic happens, right? So all the pixel values above this number, they will get the effect. I mean, they will get like, they'll get the boom and all that. All the values below this, they won't. Well, if I set this to like 5, it's gonna, like, the effect is gonna wear out. But if I set this to 0, look at that. Now that's like a bright light. Now that's pretty cool. So what if we end up using 0.2? Right, that's working out. And I'm just going to check in the original file if that's what I ended up doing. Whoa, that's quite the low value. We ended up going with 0.05. Look at that. Yep. Oh, recreating the same effect, it is quite the difficult task. But yeah, it's fun. So this is glare, and this is what is giving us these. I mean, let's have a look at the image and let's compare it with the before and after. And I think, you know what, we can do it. There is a node called split viewer. Look at that. So now if I bring this over, if I put this over here, and now if I select this, right, you can see there is a white line, and you can play with the factor. Yeah, you can clearly see the difference we've made, and this, the left one, looks way better than the right one. And yep, that's just compositing. It's like what I like to say. So let's just click on our viewer node, so deselect that, and let's just delete this. We don't need that anymore. So how do we make it a bit more realistic? And at this point, I mean, you can just leave the tutorial. These are really the tricks I wanted to show you. The rest really is adding particles. So well, let's just add some particles, right? And this is I don't even know if I should, but you know what, let's just go. So I have this dust particle image that I think I downloaded like directly from Google. Just yeah, so let's just open it up. We have it in this image texture panel. So let's just name this to dust particles. I mean, it's foggy over here, right? So there's what is this, volumetric? So obviously there's going to be a bit of dust, which is what I ended up thinking anyway. So let's bring in this texture by adding a texture node, and then let's just choose dust. Now you might be wondering, why did we just use a texture node while we can just drag and drop in this image? Well, when it comes to texture node, what we can do is actually just scale it, and it's gonna do its thing. And right now you'll see that it's oriented differently, not like this, and that's because we haven't set the scene orientation. So 1080 by 1350. There we go. Now it's behaving much better. And now if we just add a mix node and just mix this on top, and we need to set the blending mode to screen. Where is it? Where is screen? Look at that. Good to add as well. This is working just fine, right? I mean, but the problem is it's not working just fine. This is everywhere, and we don't want that. So basically what I wanted was the dust particle should be more like present in this light area, and in the dark they should be less present, or their opacity should decrease basically, and that's what I wanted to do. So how do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is create a special mask for us. Yes, special. Do you hear that? Special. Well, if we take a look at our spotlight, we already have a mask for this, right? This is just, yeah, we already have a mask. So this is where we want the dust to appear more. So what I'm going to do is drag this and add a color ramp. And now this is all just white, black and white. So I'm just going to drag this white value really close, something like this perhaps. Yeah, I think this it's doing the job. And you'll notice that it is not complete white, it's gray, and that's because in our color management we have the exposure down. So if I set this to 0, look at that. But yep, so just remember that. And let's bring this over here, and what I'm going to do is just add a alpha, set alpha node. And basically what this node does is it takes an input, so this is an image input, and whatever alpha we provide, only in that area this image will be shown. So if I connect this image to the alpha, you'll notice that we only go, and we basically, well, we're here, that's what we are. So what I'm going to do is to make it a bit well, basically it's just soften the edges, and we can do that with the help of a blur node. So Gaussian blur, set this to like 20 perhaps. I think that does the job. It's doing its weird thing, but hey, whatever, right? Who are we to judge? So let's just connect that over here. Let's just view this, and look at that. So now all the dust particles are within this ray, and we can even play around with the factors. At 0.5, you can give it 1 or 0. It's really up to you. But here's the thing. Now we need the particles also outside, right? Because it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's not going to be real. It's not going to feel realistic that, hey, there are particles here, but where are the particles over here? So let's tackle that by, well, we simply need to invert this mask. Okay, so I'm just gonna add an invert node over here, set this to color, and if I view this, look at that, it's already inverted. So what I'm going to do is again drag a set alpha node, select this as the alpha, and look at that, it's everywhere except this, and it's doing a weird thing. Maybe it's because, just a sec, Okie dokie, I'm back. Yeah, family calls, you gotta go. So why is this happening, weird thing? I think it's because we're using the blur node. So what we need to do is use this blurred node like after we're done isolating them. Maybe that's a good idea. Let's check. Up, nope. It's still the same effect. So I think let's just settle with this. I mean, this effect is going to be so less prominent that we don't need to do that. And maybe we need to check on RGB. Nope, alpha, something like this. Anyway, so when this is done, let's just find out for ourselves. So what I need to do is again mix this right over here. Let's just see. Set the blending mode to screen. Look at that. And now it is as if we never. Well, the effect is basically like this whole separation thing is pointless. Well, the beauty now is that we have a slider, so I can set this to something like 0.2, and you'll notice that now it's way less apparent over here and over here. It just less apparent, and that's what it is. But here's another problem. We are getting particles all the way on the top itself, and that is well, it's not realistic. I mean, this is just a flat 2D image as it is. So what we need to do is make sure that this top part at least should not receive the particles. So at least that's what I think. Maybe this is the right way to go. But in case you wanted to limit it, what you can do is, well, just go to the view and draw a mask, right? So let's just go over here, click new, and then just call this top. I mean, of course, you could call it bottom, or you could call it whatever the heck you want. And let's just go to mask. Nope, add square. And here we have a mask. So let's just bring it over here. Let's just select this top two, GY to bring it up. Let's just cross that. Then A to select everything, SX to spread it out, just like that. And there we go. And let's just go to view. And now let's bring in this mask. So hit M, oh, too fast. MASK and top. Look at that. So we have our mask and it is white. It's just looking gray because of the exposure. Just remember that. Then what I'm going to do is this part is where I don't have the what is this? Dust particles. And you know what? Let us bring these all together and let's just frame this. So this is Control J, inner dust, because it's inside of that. This is Control J, OUTR, outer dust, because it's outside. And yeah, that's what this is all about. And let's just spread this out so that we can mix this in. Yeah, somehow, I mean, it is doing just fine. Point is, we have to mix this top after all of this is happening. So how do we do that? Well, first let's just pull out this and add a set alpha node, which is like this. Look at that. And this mask will be the alpha, like what we've been doing so far. So now if I view this, look at that. This is just getting weird. And something I need to do. Yep, there we go. Just wanted to make sure that I ended up using a blur, because I feel like I shouldn't, but let's just try. Let's try 100, or yeah, let's just try 100. And we get this, and that's what I was worried about, but it actually ends up working. So what I'm going to do is first of all disable this to show what the problem is. And now once this is over, what we need to do is add this on top of this. So I'm going to add a mix node right over here and simply mix these two together. It's not, because we have to again click this and ta-da. So let me just bring this over here, connect this to the image of the glare node, and boom. So now you might be saying, hey, it's working, but it's not. If you take a look, there is a line over here that is just way too visible. At least for me, it is way too visible. So how do we get rid of that? Well, we add a blur. That's what you do. I ended up using 200 on the X and Y, and that literally just got rid of the line. So yeah, that's how you do it. And now here's another problem. There is a lot of noise over here. So how do we get rid of that? Well, it's pretty easy. What we can do is add a denoise node. Let's just add it over here. And here's a cool little trick if you want to learn. So if I shift click this normal, right? And if I shift click this denoising normal, and if I hit F, you'll see that they they get connected, which is pretty cool. So I'm just gonna do that for the denoising albedo. Shift left click, shift left click, and hit F. And now we basically have a sweet and simple denoised image, but we're losing some of that green. So if you're going to like go to Photoshop and add some green over there, that's entirely up to you. But what I like to do is, this is something that people do in Arnold because their noise is a bit like usable. Blender's noise, it's not really there. I'm not going to get technical, but what we can do here is we can use a mix node and mix this denoised on top of the original, like this, and use this going forward. So what this is going to do, and you can see my laptop's fan is buzzing there, but what this is going to do is give us a slider. So maybe you can use 70% of whatever the noise over here, probably. uh, it's very hard to see until we see the final output. Yeah, so we're using 70% of this and then 30% of our noise input, or maybe we can change this to like 60%. So we're using 60% of our denoised and then 40% of our noisy output, and that is just pretty chill. So other than that, I think to add that extra bit of realism, I'm just going to select all of this, by the way, and hit Control J so that we know that they belong to a block. And I'm just going to select this, Control J, F2, D I. If I can spell denoising, I would. Okay, I did. And this part is just roof, I believe is what they call it. I never known because I don't have a roof on my house because I'm poor. Yeah, so other than this, yeah, one more thing what I like to do is to give that extra bit of realism. It's add lens distortion. So there's always dispersion, right? So there's always some RGB split on the edges, and this is okay, it's way too much, but you know what, screw it. I'm gonna invite you guys to mess around with the dust particles, okay? But anyway, so dispersion, what does it mean? So if I now set this to 0.02 and this value has to be a bit low, it's gonna process. Okay, so now you can see we have this RGB split going on over here, and if I set this to like something like big 0.05, that is going to be more apparent. Look at that, now it's way more apparent. I mean, you can see the RGB split going on over here. So I'll leave this up to you, so what you're comfortable with. I think I'm gonna go with 0.03 for this one, although I think in the original one I went even lower. My laptop's fan is going crazy, isn't it? I want to kill it, but I can't because things will get much worse. One more thing you can do is to sharpen this image, and let me take a look at the time. Ooh, 28 minutes. That's good. That's no, it's not. I actually wanted to keep this video inside 10 minutes. But there's so much to talk about with you guys, and I enjoy talking to myself, which is what this literally is. I have no idea if you guys are gonna watch this or even make it this far. So those of you guys who did, pat yourself on the back, and yeah, thank you so much. This, it means a lot. So now what else is it that we can do? Well, like I said, we can sharpen this image a bit, so let's just drag out and add a filter over here. Now we have a bunch of filters that ships with Blender, so let me just switch this. Yeah, so the reason why my laptop's fan is making a big deal is, well, first of all, Blender's compositor is not at all production ready. I'm not even kidding. This is nothing compared to what we can do in Nuke. The node graph, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Blender will crash if that happens. This is yeah, that's one of the disadvantages among many. The Blender's compositor, it's not there yet, but I like to use it because I just do. And also Blender scriptomats are broken, so you can't use them in Nuke or Fusion. But anyway, enough of complaining. We have a filter over here. It's currently set to soften, and we have a bunch of them, so you can click and you can view what they do. So this is another cool effect if you wanted to. It's actually pretty darn good, but what we want to do is sharpen it. So we have a box sharpen node, which will basically sharpen the image, but it's doing it way too much. So factor 0. What is it? 0.1, maybe 2. Yeah, 0.1. It did the job for me. But the thing is, it is giving us these weird artifacts, right? Because it is sharpening and the edges are getting screwed. I don't know what the heck is happening over there, honestly. It's It I don't know, man. I don't make the rules. They just happen. So this is it. So how do we fix this? Well, it's I mean, we've been fixing issues like this way too much. Basically, the main elements in this scene are this tree and this sofa, right? So we just need the sharpen to happen to them. So one way to do that would be to add a cryptomat. Yay! Cryptomats are fun, guys. They're my best friend because I don't have ones. And okay, alone, there we go. It's kind of weird. Oh, anyway, so cryptomats are there, so let's just pick the, you know what, so let's just go to the object and let's just pick the tree, and let's just pick this one right over here, and then let's just use this image right as the image input for the box sharpen. So now it's going to get sharpened. Yes, it does. And then let's just mix that on top. So I'm going to add a mix node. Oh boy, this is getting heavy because I'm recording and God. Okay, let's just mix this on top and let's just see the effect. Is it gonna work out? Of course not. Is it gonna work out now? Yes, it is. Look at that. So we are getting the sharpening happening over here, and we have avoided this whole thing. So that is pretty cool. And maybe I should have done this. Yeah, look at that. And then I can use this as the glare and the lens distortion. So I would say this is such ARPENING. Hopefully that's right. And this is just some lens stuff. Woo! Was that a bit loud? Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, so this is exactly what we did in the original one. I'm just going to take a look at the original one to make sure that I'm not joking around with you guys. And nope, this is it. This is actually it. And if you want to like have more fun with it, what you can do is like before this denoising is happening, so before this, what you can do is add a overall color grade to it. So let me just bring this back and let me just drag this over here, something like this, and you can add a color balance node, and this will basically like color balance node, right? Lift gamma gain, we have power, offset, and scale. I think we talked about this, and if we didn't, oh well, that was a previous take. But anyway, lift gamma gain is a bit broken. Andrew Price said it himself. I'm not going to question what he does, but he did say that offset, power, and slope are the right ones to go. And gain, this is just outrageous. My PC is not, it just, I think it's because my other file is open, so I'm just gonna close it. Yeah, it's probably because of that. Whew. Anyway, so this will control the gain of it, or overall, yeah, the gain, the bright values. This will control the midtones, the gray values, and the blacks, the dark values right over here. So what we want is over here in the like the bright values, we can take this down to something orangish, and you will get a evening look. You don't? Huh. I wonder why. You can add an overall hue or a look to it. So as you can see, if I bring this over here, it is changing to something like an evening or morning look. And you can maybe even, up it up. So something like 1.3, if that's what you're into. And let's just use that over here. And now if I see the whole output, it's going to look way different as it already does. So maybe we can play around with this value to get what we want, perhaps. No, that's not what we want. Something like this. Maybe this value is way too much, so maybe like 1.1. Look at that. Something around the orangish side. Again, this is it's really up to you. It's okay. That's a look, isn't it? And yep, I would say this it's I mean, this is an overall color balance node. I ended up using it for my orange just evening slash morning look is what I'm going to call it. Not really good with colors myself, but yeah. So if you want to have a overall grade, or if you want to grade it, do this before the denoising, because after that this is just the post effects. And I'm going to delete this right now because it is just not, I don't know why it's not working out for me. It should be, but it's not. So one last try at the orangish evening slash morning look. There we go. I think this yeah, this looks pretty good for to me. So if that's what you're into, and you'll also notice that I've saved my file. Yeah, that's pretty scary. Remember to save your file, guys. It's a different kind of pain when you do so much and then you lose the work. It's a different pain. You don't want to go through that. But yeah, this is the overall grade, so I'm gonna hit Control J, F2, overall. If I can spell overall, overall, overall grade. I'm just gonna disable this for now, and let's get back to our original scene. And yep, so hit save and excuse me, retake. Yeah, so this is it. This is the tutorial. Hopefully you guys learned something, uh, which is pretty hopefully the takeaway from this tutorial that you guys by now, for those of you who followed along or just watching this tutorial, is to see the power of compositing and why you need to do compositing when you're rendering, uh, yeah. So if you want to know how I build this scene, which I'm not this is not really a rendering channel, but I don't mind showing how I did this. I mean, we already we already did the compositing, so might as well do a prequel to this. But yeah, let me know if you guys are interested in that, if that's what you guys are interested in. Kind of a weird sentence, but other than that, that is it. If you did follow along, do send me your work. I would love to see it. You know what? Take this render and just go bonkers with it. Do something crazy with this. You already have the file. It's linked in the description. Download it and play with it and make some awesome renders and surprise me with it. You can set it on my Discord channel or on Instagram. You can tag me there or tweet me. I'm pretty sure I'm not on Bumble or any of those, so don't no need finding or searching me there. But we are here, and this is, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to come up with something pretty cool. So yeah, thank you for watching and thank you for following along. So I'll see you in the next one. Until then, be infinite.